Hey everybody, I'm going to go through the first quiz with you rather quickly. Feel free to fast forward to the part that is relevant to you. All right, so the first part is the sometimes, always, never. We're just going to buzz through this. So if B is between A and C, so let's draw that, A, C, B, then AB plus AC equals BC. So what you're saying is AB plus AC is BC. That would never be true. Okay. CD bisects AB. So here's AB. CD is bisecting it, which means it's hitting it in the middle, creating a midpoint. So here's CD. Okay. So if CD is bisecting AB, then AM and MB are equal, and M is the midpoint of AB. That is always true. Read it the other way now. If AB bisects CD, so here's CD, and AB is bisecting that, so that's cutting it in half. So AB is coming through and cutting it right here. Then M is the midpoint of AB. No, not true. It's a sometimes. We don't know where AB is. You know, we just said it's bisecting CD. We didn't say it's being bisected. So it could sometimes be true. The set of points MN and P are non-collinear. So here's M and P. Then this set of points is always coplanar. If you have 3 points, they're always coplanar, period, end of discussion. You can always put a plane on them. That was the most commonly missed one here. All right, looking at this picture, we have some sizes labeled, and I think a couple of you missed reading that. All right, so let's start with number 2. List all the ways to properly name the line that contains E and C. So this line here. So I started with, AC, and I drew the line above it. So that's one way to name it. Or you could do AE, line above it. Or you could do AD, line above it. Okay, then I started with point C as my beginning point. CA, line above it, and so forth. CE is an option, CD is an option. They should all have lines above them. Start with E as your first point, EA, EC, ED. Start with D as your first point. DA, DC, DE. And they'd all have lines above them. Some of you just missed the notation. Some of you didn't think of every way to name it. We are not going to do this often where I ask you to name them all. That's just a beginning of the year kind of thing. Okay, list all the ways to name the ray whose endpoint is F and contains H. So this ray right here. Okay, so if its endpoint is F, it always has to start with F. You could do FH, you could do FA, that's it. Anything over here does not contain H. But you do need to draw your ray symbol, and it starts at F, goes towards H. Starts at F, goes towards A. Number 4, which segments are congruent? Well, the only segments you know anything about are AC, CE, and ED. Nothing else here has any information. Nothing else is marked congruent or anything. We just know these two measurements. So, CE, that segment, and ED, that segment, are congruent, and that's the notation, because they have the same length. Lastly, list all the ways to properly name the segment whose endpoints are GD. So that's this segment right here. So you could call it GD or DG, but it needs the segment bars because it is a segment. Okay, moving on. Find each of the following distances using the marked coordinate values. Let me grab my calculator for this. I want to show us how to calculate this on the calculator. All right, here we go. So if I'm going from B to C, what I'm really doing is I want to find the distance from B to C. And if they were just whole numbers, 5 and 3, you could count them and say, -5 and 3, you could count and know that they're 8 apart. But they're not. They're fractions, mixed numbers. So let's make them into improper fractions. So first of all, this one is -16/3. This one is -17/6, and this one is +31/8. Okay? So BC is the distance from B to C. So it is the -16/3 minus whatever C is, 31/8, and I'm going to take the absolute value. So I'm going to type that into my calculator like this. And excuse this dot. This is what happens when you step on a screen. I did not do that, somebody else did. So there's negative 16/3. I need to subtract 31/8. That's a Nikki number. I want to math frac that. And I don't want the negative, because remember I'm taking an absolute value, so my answer is just 221/24. Ew. Okay. Same thing for BA. I'm going to find the distance from negative 16/3 to negative 17/6. And remember, distance is subtraction, so I have minus a negative. Let your calculator deal with it. Okay? Negative 16/3 minus negative 17/6. Okay? Math bracket. And you get negative 5/2. And it's positive because it's distance, absolute value. All right? Make sure you can use calculators properly, please. All right. 7. A is the midpoint of BC. Let's draw that. So here's BC. A is the midpoint. That tells me BA and AC are equal. D is the midpoint of DC. I'm sorry, of AC. So somewhere on here I have a midpoint D, okay, and that tells me, and this is really hard to see now, but I know BA and AC are equal. D being the midpoint of AC, I've got double mark on these tiny guys. All right, DC, this little piece here is 7. So consequently, AD is also 7, right? Because AD and DC are equal, because D is its midpoint. Now, if this piece AC is 7, but it's also equivalent to BA, I'm sorry, this piece here AC is 14, it's also equivalent to BA, then BA is 14. BD then is 14 plus 7 more, 21. Okay. Problem 8 was a differentiator. This is to see if people really know what they're doing and can apply what we're using. So you have a piece of wire that's 2 5/8 inches long. We used a fraction to make you do the math, so you couldn't just think it through in your head. You had to do math, actually. You need to cut the wire into 2 pieces. So one piece is half the other. So here's one piece and here's the other. There's a couple ways you can label it. I labeled one piece X, and it's half of this side, making that side 2X. Okay, you could have done this instead. You could have said one piece, if you called the larger side X and the other side 1/2 X. You could have done that as well and it would work. All right, one piece is half the other. Okay, how long are they? Well, segment addition tells you X plus 2X is 2 5/8, so that's 21/8. So 3X is 21/8. So I need to do 21/8 divided by 3. You guys just make your calculator deal with this. 21 divided by 8, in parentheses, divided by 3. Math frac that. 7/8. Okay, so X is the shorter piece and it's 7/8. Twice that is 14/8, or 7/4. Okay? Remind me sometime, I want to talk to you guys about dividing fractions. I have another way to think about it. Okay, on the back. Write an expression for the area and perimeter. You're not going to get numbers, okay? Multiply completely and simplify your answer. All right, so the perimeter. The perimeter is the outside measurements, okay? So I have 8, and I have X minus 7, and I have, whoops, sorry, that's a plus, and I have 2X plus 5. All right, distribute these positive ones. I have 8 plus X minus 7 plus 2X plus 5. Combine like terms, I have 3X minus 6. Sorry, plus 6. Area. Area of a triangle is 1/2 the base times the height, the base being this 8 right here. So 1/2 times 8, and the height being this vertical height right here, X plus 6. All right, let's clean this up. I'm going to do this first. This is 4 times X plus 6. Now I just have to distribute 4X plus 24. Please distribute all the way. These are my answers, 3x plus 6 and 4x plus 24. Perimeter area. Similar situation over here. My perimeter, I have 2 of these guys plus 2 of these guys. Distribute. And combine like terms. That's the best I can do for perimeter. Area is x minus 5 times 3x plus 2. Properly distribute. X times 3x is 3x squared. X times positive 2, negative 5 times 3x, negative 10 there, okay? And then combine like terms, please. These are expressions with x left in them, so they're expressions in terms of x for perimeters and areas. You cannot solve them. There are no equal signs. Okay, last stuff. Show your mathematical support. Some of you need a little help in this area showing support. AB. When it says AB like that, it wants the length of AB. My first instinct is to draw in my Pythagorean sides to make a Pythagorean triangle. Or to make a right triangle so I can apply the Pythagorean theorem. Easy for me to say. So 3 squared plus 6 squared is AB squared. 9 plus 36 is AB squared. So 45 is AB squared. Take the square root of both sides, square root of 45. Some people wrote 3 square roots of 5. I didn't realize Mrs. Scott said nearest hundredth. I wanted this. Or you could go ahead and put the number to the nearest hundredth is 6.71. Okay? According to the midpoint on CD, okay, well, what I did was I counted slope. I went down 1 and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what I need to do is go half that. Down a half and over 1, 2, 3. That's right here. So that midpoint is 2, 3.5. Okay? And lastly, if M is the midpoint of EF, so F is over here somewhere. Okay, so let's draw this in. All right, so my slope is I'm going up 2, back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's do it again. Up 2, back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Puts F right there. Negative 7, 1. I'm sorry, negative 7, 0. Some of you wrote 0, negative 7. That's down here. Okay. All right, that's the quiz in 12 and a half minutes. Thanks, guys.